everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of Female Film Critics Panel. And today we are doing a little bit of like ranting, venting, talking. we're trying to figure out what's going on with movies in 2024 because it's been rough. At least for me, it certainly has. And I wanted to have a friend with me to dissect this. This particularly mainstream movies have been not the best this year. And I have Alise Chaffins is here. Thank you so much for coming and talking about this with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm so happy to be here again. It's been a year. Last year was
Yeah.
so good. Like it felt like it was just banger after banger last year, and this
Yeah.
year has been not that. So
Yeah. And it started off for me, it started off really well. At least Sundance. I had a great Sundance. I liked almost everything that I saw. And maybe that is the theme of this year is I'm just like an indie girl this year. I don't know what is
that's
going
fair. Yeah. Yeah, like
because
I don't know, everything I've seen that I loved this year. Well, I mean, well, not maybe everything, but most of what I've seen that I love this year was actually stuff that came out last year that I didn't get to see until like a award season
right.
this year. So I caught like Perfect Days, which I loved, and Robot Dreams, which I
Yeah.
loved. And like, but I didn't, but those are last year movies. Like
Yeah,
everything that
that's
I've
true.
seen this year that I loved were movies from last year that I just didn't get to see until, this year. But yeah, it's been rough.
Do you think that part of it is that we had a couple years where because things got delayed, there was kind of a couple years that were like amazing because there
Mm-hmm.
was just all these movies that were finally coming out that either we had like super anticipated or that had just there was just a lot of good movies all out at the same time.
Yeah, I think there could be that. I don't know. It feels like the strike
And
wouldn't
the
have like
strike.
impacted this year quite as much, but that could be. I'm not sure like where in the movie like
Yeah.
making process that goes. So I'm like bracing myself for a potential next year to also not be great, just based on, like I said, I don't know how long it takes for a movie to go from, you know, point A to point the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah, I know. I kind of wonder about that too. Is like, is this something to do with the strike? But it does seem like that would affect television more than movies, and also it would affect movies more next year or the year after than
Right,
this year.
right. That's my
The
thought as
cycle's so
well.
long.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I can't imagine that this is strike. I don't know. It also, I guess there's a part of me that wonders if studios in particular, not necessarily like screenwriters and directors and stuff, but if studios are kind of chasing audiences instead of like putting something out that's good and letting audiences find it. It feel at
Yeah.
least that's been kind of my thought as I watch a lot of these movies that we'll talk about here is they feel like they're trying to appeal to fans rather than like creating fans or something.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Something
Well, you know
like
what's
that.
interesting? So I went through and made a list of the movies that I'd given Fresh to and movies I'd given Rotten to that I consider mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually not as different as I thought it was as it feels because I just feel like I've been so negative. And I actually had I had 11 movies that I'd given Rotten to, and I had 9 that I'd given Fresh to.
Right
So
on.
not quite as bad as I thought it feels, but um, I think that it it's just I've had these kind of rough patches where there's been
Mm-hmm.
a pretty good streak, where um and and some others that a lot of other people really really liked. But I know one that you and I agree on that we have unpopular opinion on was A Quiet Place Day One.
I was no thank you on that movie entirely. I was
Yeah,
just
yeah,
I, so I liked the first one mostly as a concept more than
hmm
and like a movie going experience more than
yeah,
like actually liking the film, I guess.
uh-huh,
Like which is already, I guess, an unpopular opinion, and that I didn't love the first one, but I appreciated what it was doing. And then the second one came out, and I did not like it. I was like, why is this movie even existing? And then they said the only part in the second movie that I liked was the little flash they did to like the aliens coming. And I
Uh-huh.
thought, okay, I kind of dig this segment of it. So when they said day one, there was a part of me that's like, even though I'm not super interested in this franchise, this is not doing it for me. I was like, that was my favorite part of two. So maybe I'll enjoy. No.
Uh-huh.
I was like,
Well, so the first one was, I agree, an incredible experience in the
mm-hmm.
theater. Very memorable. The
Yeah.
just how I was fortunate that I was in a very, very quiet theater. And so I was able to get the experience and the ambiance and just everything that was happening to these characters. So I really, really enjoyed it. And then the second one, I really enjoyed while I was watching it, but then I have
Mm.
like literally not thought about it again since not once. So it's not one of those
That's
movies
fair.
that stayed with me, but I did enjoy it. And I felt like this third one was going to be an opportunity to like do something different, tell a different story. But it was so disappointing because they really didn't. They told the exact same story. It just happened to be in New York.
Yeah.
It's a group of people that are trying to get to the like home center kind of thing. And like there's these aliens
Yeah.
that are trying to kill them. And it was just, to me, I just can't believe that more people haven't been critical about that helicopter. That was the laziest screenwriting I've seen in so
Seriously.
long. This is supposed to be, the whole premise is about day one, right?
Uh-huh.
It's about the first day that they have these. So how in the world could they possibly have a helicopter blasting out for everybody to hear that they don't swim? How could they possibly know that on day one?
Right.
And that they about all the quiet stuff. Like it was just like a cliff notes of everything to do with these
Yeah.
aliens on day one. It was so like, are you kidding me? I don't know.
They
I just
didn't,
thought that was
yeah.
so lame.
And like there's no, it was so odd because I was like, why is there no like military response like to it? And also, oh my goodness, we're
There wouldn't be
like,
a
okay,
military
so
response if the military literally knew every single thing about
I
these. I
guess,
mean,
yeah,
like, what?
but we have no idea how to kill them, which ultimately was my frustration with the first movie. Was
Yeah.
like, okay, we're almost whatever a year and a half, 2 years into this thing, and literally at no point anything has ever like done some kind of feedback and
Yeah.
made the like seriously you're kidding me that like that was never exploited at any point. And so
Yeah.
like my ability to suspend disbelief was pretty limited from the jump, but
Yeah, I mean,
that aside, oh my
especially in
god.
New York City, just the pigeons alone would be so loud that these that the
And
humans have
just
nothing on. There's like a billion pigeons in the
also
city.
like day one or day two, when they're whatever, I guess it's day two, the city is this like cratered out like
Yeah, it was.
hellscape looking kind of thing. And I'm just like, I, also, maybe it takes a minute for everything to completely deteriorate. I don't know.
Yeah,
It did not
it was
work for me.
so
I was
stupid.
not a fan of that movie. I was like,
Yeah,
no, please. I want literally anything else to
yeah,
happen. Like, just give me something different. But yeah, it's the same. I mean,
yeah. My
I don't know.
review, I titled it. Let me find it. It was a good moment for me. It was funny. I said, "A Quiet Place Day One review," or Shh, this movie is stupid.
I mean, yeah.
I
I
mean,
just I
I just can't believe that more people weren't like, "Are you kidding me? There's a helicopter blasting out all of the information about the
mhm.
aliens." Like that was so dumb.
It
And
was
it
pretty
was just
dumb.
such lazy storytelling. And it like took away what was the whole premise of the movie was about day one. It was about like So
Yeah.
why would I watch this when I could just watch the last one, which was exactly the same? I
Right.
mean, they were
I,
lucky that they had had incredible actors in all of these. They've had a great
yeah.
cast, so that helps. But like there was nothing there were very few things as like intimate and chilling as like, well, obviously Emily Blunt giving birth in the first one, but
Yeah.
even just something like her being on that nail and you
Uh-huh.
just feel it, and it's like very, there really wasn't any, it was all just kind of going through the motions. We've seen everything in this movie a billion times in this
Yeah.
franchise.
Yeah. Yeah, the scene at the pizza shop, I guess, was okay, but
Yeah.
like, I don't know. It
Yeah.
yeah, the
And that
it,
cat, that the cat trainer deserves an
yeah.
Oscar.
Yeah,
How they were
I
able
agree
to get
with
that
that.
cat to do that and be so
Totally fair.
still.
It was something. I don't know.
Yeah. It's the best cat performance since Brooks and Tiffany's, I think.
Are you a fan of Rachel's Reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics Panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
So I want to talk about
Yeah.
Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
Oh my
That's on
gosh.
my list
Please.
of movies that just I have been angry about this movie, I think, since the first trailer dropped. Like I I am so sorry, but oh my goodness, my frustration was at a 10 before I even went in to see it. But I am a Ghostbusters 1984 like super fan. I would say that is probably one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I love
Okay.
Ghostbusters. And I am old. I am 50. So like
Yeah.
which is fine. I mean like
Yeah.
and like so I've been here. I have loved it since it came out. I have loved this movie. And like, I'm the kind of person who you would think all this nostalgia bait should be for. And it just makes me so mad because it feels, I'm just so frustrated because we have already that movie. It has existed. And that they brought back all of the original cast again. I did not love it in Afterlife. Like, I was not a fan of Afterlife. I've liked basically no uh Ghostbuster other than the original.
Yeah.
But
It's like
like,
Jurassic Park in that
yeah,
way. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And but I was like, they gave an end to those characters in Afterlife. I'm
Yeah.
like, we are now in the new setting. Let's let this cast, who's pretty decent, like we have some pretty good actors as the kids, as the new people. You have Paul Rudd, it's like it's this pretty decent kind of thing. And they bring back all this old and they bring back all this new, and there are like 40 characters that you got to keep track of, and none of them are worth anything. You have Patton Oswalt, who's there. I have no idea why he's in it because everything that he does, like Ray Stantz already said all this. It's just,
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. It was terrible.
I
It was,
hated
yeah.
it.
Yeah. It was so bad. And it wasn't funny. And there was like
No.
maybe something with the daughter storyline a little bit, but it just dragged on. And then they were like, let's just make everybody a Ghostbuster. Literally, it was like everybody in the square has a proton pack. I was like, what? It was it was like they had a whole bunch of executives were like, my kid wants to be a Ghostbuster. Can you be a ghost? Oh, okay, we'll let you be a Ghostbuster. Anybody who gives $1 million to the movie, you get to be a Ghostbuster.
Yeah,
That's
seriously.
what it
I
felt
just,
like.
and that's what I'm saying is these are the two things, like even already that it feels to me like studios chasing people rather than like inviting people. And that's
Yeah.
how I feel about so much of, yeah, like just looking down this list,
Uh-huh.
is just, yeah, let's
It's
give
interesting
them what
because
I think they want rather than just, I'm going to do a good story. And if they come to it, great.
when I left, I was like, oh, they just made that one just for fans. Like there was like a fan service moment here, fan service moment here, fan thing there. They'll be able to kind of escape into this, like, everybody gets to be a Ghostbuster kind of. And like I said in my review, I said in my letterbox thing, I said, maybe my lack of fondness for this franchise shows because I was totally bored by this entry. It's like they had a contest of how many Ghostbusters in suits and proton packs they could cram into scenes. This one is just for fans. So that's interesting to hear you as a fan that was not serviced by this.
I mean, I know that there are people who were, I guess, but I don't know.
It was so bland. I
It's
know people,
boring.
yeah, it was so boring. And people, get all upset by people saying this, but it did kind of feel like they put in Ghostbusters sequel into an AI bot and this
Mhm.
is what popped out. It really felt that way.
Yeah, and that's yeah, I think that's just been so, yeah, like so much of this summer. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's funny because I feel like we're in this, we want people to come to the movies. And I say this as a person who loves going to the movies. Like, not just I love watching movies, but I really do love going to the theater and like seeing a movie with other people. Like,
Yeah.
I enjoy that quite a bit. And I get like it's been a hard, like, especially since COVID and just forward, it's been hard for movies to kind of like get back to it. And I feel like, yeah, they're trying to like capture something. It's like, oh, people want original movies because last year Barbie and Oppenheimer did really well.
Yeah.
But then
It's
I
true.
look at this year and I'm like, you know what movie did really well? A sequel. And then another sequel. It's like, Deadpool made a lot of money
You,
and
you know what's
Inside Out
funny?
2 like blew
Yeah,
up and made a lot of
that's
money.
true.
And it's like, so okay, this is the opposite of last year.
Yeah.
It's sequels are what we want and franchises. And I'm like, maybe the real thing is stop trying to like predict people and just make movies and let people like what they
Just
like.
work
I
on the
don't know.
scripts. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
like to me, it's absolutely insane that, like, I was talking to my friend about this, that like if somebody were to give me $1 million, it would absolutely change my life. And I could do so many amazing things for years on
Mm-hmm.
something like that, right? $1 million. Okay.
Right.
And you have these studios that drop. I know it's not an equal equivalency, whatever, but it
Right.
still just kind of blows my mind, that you have these studios that will spend millions of dollars on something like Harold and the Purple Crayon. I don't know how much. Oh my
I feel
gosh.
like it was like 40 or something.
Yeah,
Not
whatever.
not
Like however many millions
right.
made millions too many, because that was the most boring movie I've ever seen. It was so bland. It was so uncreative. And like you have this beloved children's book, and I guarantee you, Alise, that if you and I had a weekend to brainstorm ideas for Harold and the Purple Crayon movie, I know you and I could come up with something better than what
Surely.
I watched this weekend. It was painful. And I
Yeah,
sure
I
as
just
heck know that I could come up with something better than I forgot to even put on my list, Madam Web. Oh my gosh.
that
Oh my
movie.
gosh.
That movie like makes me angry. Like every now and again when I sit there and I'm like, that movie is not. So I just saw Trap this week. I think you also saw
Yeah,
Trap
we're gonna
and
definitely
was,
talk about that.
yeah, was not a fan.
No.
But I'm like, at least it was like funny bad.
Yeah.
Like Madam Web was nothing. Like, I don't think it's like one of those so bad it's good again kind of thing. It's
No.
just only bad. Like
Yeah.
every part of that movie offended me like as like a moviegoer and a story lover. I hated
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
about it. I'm like,
The
it
villain
is,
gets taken out by a Pepsi sign. I mean, that's how bad it is.
oh my gosh. I just, yeah, like that is, I don't give like half a star reviews hardly ever. I'm just, that one got a half
Yeah.
a star from me because I was just, I'm angry at the, yeah, at the laziness of it. It just feels like, yeah, that
I
it
guess what makes me
frustrated.
mad too is that so that same weekend that Madam Web was released cost, I'm just guessing, $150 million, somewhere around there.
In that,
And
yeah.
that same weekend there was a little independent film released in just a few theaters called Molly and Max in the Future.
Mm,
And this thing was like made for like nothing. I mean,
right,
it
right.
was made by this guy and his friends during the pandemic. They built like all the models themselves out of their apartment. They did everything with, they used green screen to create like these cool environments. And it's very like Doctor Who meets When Harry Met Sally. He's, and it had this cool style and it was funny. And like not everything works about it, but it was very creative and very fun. And it just, I guess it just kind of boggles my mind that something like that can be made by like two guys out of their apartment and Sony can't come up with anything better.
Seriously, I just, oh my God, it's horrific. Yeah, my favorite movie this year has been Ghost Light, which
Yeah,
was this
so good.
beautiful story. I absolutely like, I would, of everything I've seen this year, I think that's probably my favorite. And
It's
again,
high for me as well.
it didn't get a like super wide distribution, and I'm just like, I'm so disappointed because it's this, yeah, really beautiful like family story, and it's, I mean, like a literal family also, which I kind of loved, but it's
Yeah,
just, I don't know, I just, yeah, like I feel that same way. And just like, yeah, and I think that like horror has been really interesting this year too. And it's funny because it's been some of these like low budget things that have really like been imaginative and interesting to me. So like I went to see Maxine and I really liked the first two in
yeah,
the Ty West trilogy. I liked Pearl and X quite a bit. I thought they were really interesting, like conversation pieces and
I
like thoughtful
agree.
stuff. And like Maxine felt like, I don't know, I felt like he got a little too committed to the bit in it. I think that was like my frustration with this one, is that it's like I
Yeah,
really want, and 80s horror is just not great. So like he like really like committed to this 80s horror thing, and I felt like it probably didn't work as well. But then I see something like Late Night with the Devil that had, yeah, almost no budget and is this like really interesting cool story, and it may falls apart a little bit at the end, but
yeah.
like I loved it. I loved the practical effects. I just thought, and I guess that's it, is like, yeah,
I am turning a lot more to the well main I am turning a lot more into to indies and then also foreign films like something like
mm,
Kill. Did you see that?
I missed Kill when it was here.
Yeah.
I'm bummed because I really wanted to see it. It
Yeah,
looked
I mean it was
fascinating.
a lot. It was like pushing
Yeah.
my violence tolerance levels.
Uh-huh.
It was really violent. But so well done.
Yeah.
So well done. So well staged, and I mean there's practically no plot, but like boy, if if these you just think if these action directors could go over to India and learn something from these
Hmm.
directors that are doing such interesting, exciting stuff,
Yeah.
and then we
Well, I
get
mean,
this
I love,
bland stuff from Hollywood.
yeah. Well, I mean, you look at last year's Godzilla minus one is
Yeah, absolutely.
spectacular. It's so
It
good.
has
It's
heart
so
and
good.
soul.
Yeah.
And compare Godzilla X Kong, it was so boring. I'm just like, how can a movie with Kong and Godzilla be so boring? I mean, they spent so long on Kong on Skull Island with like the various a Kongs,
Hmm.
like what? I don't even know. It was so fun. I was
Yeah.
like, what is happening? Godzilla's gone for like 45 minutes of the movie. We're just like the so
Yeah, it's so frustrating because I sit there and I'm like, but we literally just had a really excellent
yeah.
Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
And to like,
Sure.
yeah, turn
Or
around
even
and spend
if you
probably 3 times the budget
yeah,
and make a significantly inferior movie. It's just
even if you want a kaiju movie from this year, they're on animated is one called Ultraman Rising. That was
mm,
really good.
right.
Beautifully animated, good story. It was great. Watch that.
Yeah.
It was way better. Oh my gosh. As far as like horror, a smaller one that I really enjoyed, it is pretty gory, but it's called What You Wish For.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I recommend checking this one out. It's about if you did you like The Menu?
I love the menu.
Yeah, me too. I really liked it. And this is, I mean, I guess like food horror is my thing. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe. But it's about a chef who gets flown in to Costa Rica, I think it is. And there's this like special dinner that he's asked to prepare, and they will like basically pay for all his gambling debts. So he's super motivated to do this. And I won't tell you anything else because
Nice.
I wouldn't want to spoil it for you or the listeners. But I really, this is Nick Stahl is the actor's name, who I was unfamiliar with, but he was really good. And I just thought it was very like well paced and well done. So people should check that one
Nice.
out.
Yeah. Yeah. I do. I think like stop motion was an interesting horror film this year,
Oh
again, with
yeah.
like a pretty minimal budget. Yeah, I don't know. There've been Oddity that just came out recently, really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I liked Long Legs pretty well. I thought it was really interesting. There have been
Yeah.
like some really decent horror films this year. I'm still excited for Nosferatu coming out. So
Did you see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes?
I did.
What did you think?
I so I went in with like underground uh expectations for it
Uh-huh.
because I love the like previous trilogy. So I went in with like the lowest expectations. I did not anticipate liking it at all. And um it was pretty mid to me. Like
Mm.
I put it as like I didn't hate it. I thought it
Yeah.
was okay. I thought one of the things that I liked about, the original was the way that the apes didn't just feel like humans talking, I guess.
Yeah.
And this felt very much just like humans talking.
Uh-huh.
Like I just didn't there felt like some kind of disconnect. It's not even that the voice acting was bad. It just
It
didn't
didn't,
feel
it
like
made
it
you
worked.
appreciate what Andy Serkis did even more. It really
Exactly.
did.
I think that's the main thing. It's not that I would characterize it as like bad voice acting. It felt like it didn't match the I don't know. It
Yeah.
was fine.
I was
The movie was
totally,
fine to
totally
me.
uninterested. I mean, it just did
Yeah.
not, it did not grab me at all. I mean, this whole, especially once they got to the compound and there's this like, I just thought it was so generic,
Hmm.
fascist, like, and you've got the totally bland humans and the totally bland apes. I was not invested in their story or what was happening. And when I think about especially that second in this recent trilogy, when Gary Oldman, when he is able to finally power on his device and see the pictures of his family, that
Mm,
scene is I'm not kidding, one of the most powerful scenes in film for me.
right.
I mean, because it had never occurred to me that I just stopped printing photos.
Right.
I mean, a couple of years ago, I almost never, unless I'm going to frame it for something, I almost never get a picture framed. I mean, a
Right.
picture printed. And I obviously used to do it all the time because that was the only way you got
Right.
your pictures.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it was just such a powerful moment because I never really thought about like what would happen if you lost power and you would lose all of your images.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
him like that whole scene was so moving to me, and there was nothing that was even close to that in this. Like nothing that made me feel anything. And it just felt so bland to me. And that's what's the problem, I think, with a lot of this is it's like movie by committee. It's movies that are bland. It's movies that are trying, as opposed to like really appealing to a particular audience and saying, I'm going to make a really good movie for women that like rom-coms. I'm going to do that. I'm going to try to make a movie for everybody that everybody will like. And so they end up just feeling really bland and disappointing.
Right. Yeah. And I think you're exactly right. It's one of those things where like, yeah, movies that really connect with people tend to be very specific, like stories. And I think, yeah, like, I know that like, yeah, like, I think that's just what we've been missing. I think it is. Yeah. I think you're exactly right.
With Barbie, like there was no attempt in Barbie to try and make a movie for everyone, right? But right. Barbie was made for, I think Barbie was made for women, and it literally has a whole pep talk for women.
Right.
But it was so good and so well done that everybody, because people like good stuff, so they're like, okay, we like it, and it appealed to everybody, and right. And so I just think that that's part of the problem. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's Factor Meals. Warmer, sunnier days are calling. Fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. Crush your wellness goals this month with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients you can trust. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. Keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced. Head to factormeals.com/hallmarkies50 and use code hallmarkies50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code hallmarkies50 at factormeals.com/hallmarkies50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Definitely check out Factor Meals. We know you'll love them. Yeah, how did you feel about Deadpool and Wolverine?
I mean, I thought it was fine. It was fun. I'm not like a huge Deadpool fan. Like the first one, I thought it was, it was fun. It was an interesting little thing that like after one watch felt incredibly stale to me. And like, I probably liked this one the best of the three, but that's like not saying a whole lot because I didn't really love the first two. And so like, yeah, I thought it was just it was definitely for a real specific audience.
The second one was terrible in my opinion.
I hated the second one.
The first one was I just watched it, like both of them. I just watched this month, so it was a blind spot for me. And then this third one, I just laughed a lot. Like, again, that script, it was funny. It like the plot, anytime they cared about the MCU or like tying things back to Marvel or like explaining how the TVA worked or the different, the, like, what was it? The key being, what did they say? There's one being that's the key.
Oh yeah,
all that was stupid. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares.
It doesn't matter.
It's like I was saying, like, nobody watches Monty Python and is like, wow, this is a great plot. This is so deep. I mean, you enjoy it because you're laughing, this incredibly stupid movie. You're laughing at the jokes. And so who cares, Like,
yeah, I wish they had just gone and made Mr. Paradox the bad, because like To
Yeah.
me, this is my, if I could rewrite this story, I would have definitely just made Mr. Paradox, the Matthew McFadden
Yeah.
character. I would have loved to have just seen him be the bad guy, because like fighting a middle management guy who just is lazy and doesn't want to wait around for stuff, to
Yeah.
me is a hilarious, like interesting villain, rather
Yeah.
than a kind of whatever,
Yeah. You could
boring,
do
I
some
want to
funny meta
destroy
things with
everything.
that.
I think so. I like, to me that would be the main thing I would change, is just like the villain is nothing and like pointless, but like I think he would have been a phenomenal, like pretty hilarious villain personally.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
yeah, just speaking of like that whole thing of just the, let's go ahead and just let it be what it actually is instead of trying to make it something else. That's how I felt about Furiosa,
Yeah.
because Fury Road is, oh, like one of, or if not the
Yeah.
best just action movies ever made. And all it is we're going to get in a car, we're going to drive to this place, and then we're
Yeah.
going to get in the car, we're going to drive to this place, then we're going to go to this place. And it has like a little bit of story that ties it together, but not very much. And it
No.
doesn't need to do anything like deep at all. And this movie felt like, oh, well, we maybe need to like make this a little deeper, but it never really was deep. And like,
Yeah.
I just was like,
I
oh,
agree. I did not go fresh on Furiosa. I didn't think it was horrible. Like there's enough
no, I agree. It's
spectacle.
not awful.
No, there's enough spectacle to like have some entertainment. But I just thought again the story and like the thing about Fury Road is it's basically a war movie,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's
Yeah.
that it's here's a battle and then we'll have like a brief moment and then here's another battle. It's just they happen to have like crazy cars and crazy tanks and stuff, but and so it's so entertaining and visceral and exciting. Whereas this one, it just I was just waiting for with this one I was just waiting for the action to start up again because I just did not care about the story and it took so long to get to Anya Taylor-Joy's character, an hour,
Right.
and it just
Yeah.
felt bloated. The movie felt bloated to me.
No, I totally agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was just, and then at the end of it, I didn't feel like I actually knew anything more about her
No.
character, like at all.
And it
And I'm
just
like, if you're
it,
gonna give me all this backstory, then you
yeah.
gotta like freaking tell me something about her that I don't know. I know that her
Right.
mom died. I know that like there just wasn't
Yeah.
anything like, yeah, okay, I don't know how she lost her hand. I don't really care. That's not like
Yeah.
a thing that is important. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. And there were a lot of what I call looks like moments. Like, oh, this scene looks like something from Fury Road. This looks like here's a Morton Joe to remind you of Fury Road. And here's another scene that's similar to Fury Road. And I'm like, why wouldn't I just watch Fury Road?
Right.
Like, yeah, Fury Road.
Mm-hmm.
And I just it was disappointing. I agree on that one. Another one that let's see here. Some other ones that were disappointing to me. I was disappointed with Twisters. I was like, there was fun to be had. Whatever. I get it. Why if some people enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was disappointed. First of all, I think the whole kiss thing is absolutely moronic and stupid. Like, and then the director coming out and saying if the if they had the kiss at the end, then that's all it would be about, and not about her being a scientist. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Like, scientists, women like to get kissed,
right?
And in at the end of Top Gun Maverick. There's a kiss, and I don't remember anybody being like, "Well, that was all that movie was about."
Right.
Ridiculous! It's so stupid. So that's inane. But also, just like these Midwesterners were just unconscionably stupid, like unfathomably stupid. Like that they would be at the rodeo when there had been a massive tornado that day in their like immediate vicinity, and that they would be out playing baseball when there's been a warning, like and the tornado's like right there. They're like, oh,
yeah,
right. Like, I remember when I lived in Indiana, I there was a mild tornado when I was there, and but it did some damage and everything. And I remember people were like, "Go inside! What are you doing?" Because we didn't know, we were foreigners, and they were like, "Go inside!" And so we did, and we were making phone calls, and somebody was like, "Get which we were. And that, I mean, nobody would be out playing baseball. I mean, come on. You got to have your movie be like a tiny bit realistic. I don't know.
Well,
That was so
especially since
stupid.
this one like seemed like it wanted to be more real than the
Yeah.
original. Like the original, I feel like the original movie was basically a monster movie, is how it
Yeah.
felt like to me. And so like I could kind of deal with some of the stupid in the first one. And like this one, I think it just starts so seriously. And I think that was the other thing, is
Yeah.
like you're worried about this, woman being like, you know, ignored because she kisses somebody at the end, but what you have actually done is ignore like some pretty significant trauma that she experienced, and just gets pushed around by men to like, well, if you just go face your fears, you'll be fine. Then
Can't
5
give her a
people that
kiss. I mean,
died. I'm just like, it just starts with this very like,
yeah.
oh, kind of thing, and it feels like it can never recover, because like that
Yeah.
is so horrible. And now you're just like, funny fun times. I mean, I
Yeah.
was not a fan of Twisters, because yeah, I mean, like the only redeeming part of it was like Glenn Powell, and he
Yeah.
was not enough to like fix
Well,
it
I
for
mean,
me.
especially when you have Hitman, like I just watch that
Yeah,
instead.
exactly. Watch Hitman instead. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just there were some people saying, "Oh, it's like it's a Hallmark movie." And in first of all, if it was a Hallmark movie, she would definitely get kissed at the end.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
because it's the city girl, going to the country, whatever, you see that all the time in Hallmark movies. But the other way that it tried to be that kind of movie is like the Bad Men of Business. They were
Mm-hmm.
so one note and such a like David Cornsweet, like, oh my gosh, he was like I don't blame him. It was just a
No.
terribly written part.
But also, why would you have the bad guy be like, have a surrogate who is the like very close friend of the person?
Yeah.
So we're supposed to root against him, I guess, except not really, because he's kind of also a good
Yeah.
guy, but he works for the bad guy. And so I'm just like, yeah, it's stupid in the first one to have Cary Elwes be a bad guy because he got a grant and like has money to do storm chasing. Like, I'm pretty sure that's just how it works, is you get money and then you get better
Yeah,
equipment
what a
and
villain.
you're able to do it. But whatever, they just made him the bad guy, and that's fine. And here you have like this genuinely bad like vulture come in, and like if you want to make him a one note bad guy villain, fine, but like make him the villain, not this like, oh, we have your best friend who works for the bad guy, but you're not supposed to hate him. And it just, the whole thing
Yeah.
just felt like so, it just never quite found its footing again.
Yeah.
I
It was
don't know.
disappointing. And sometimes I think that's more disappointing when you got all the pieces. You had
Right.
everything.
Everything.
There were
It
only a
really
few
is
tweaks
right
that would have
there.
made this so much better.
Mm-hmm. And that's how it felt about a lot of movies this year, is just
Agreed.
like, yeah, like it's, you're right there.
Yeah.
Not Madam Web.
Yeah, that one was a
That's
lost cause.
just burn that one. But like,
but the Fall Guy, I definitely felt that it had
yeah,
all
it's
of the
so
pieces. That movie should have been
close.
great, and it wasn't
Mhm.
great, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
it was just, again, it's fine. It's fine. I didn't hate it. Like, yeah, Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, like they're a very like charismatic couple. They're fine. But like, yeah, it just didn't, I don't
I
know.
just could not believe that the movie separated them for almost the entire movie.
Oh, the whole movie. Yeah.
The whole movie, just to have these and people are like, what do you mean when you say meaningless action scenes? I mean that the action scenes did not further the narrative hardly at all. We have this very weak plot of him looking for this actor, right? And all that was an excuse for him to be like walking down the street. Oh, here's an action scene, and then he's continuing on. But it wasn't like, for instance, in like a National Treasure movie, right? Like the action scenes, he finds a clue, and then he finds another clue, and then he goes to this, and he's got to go through this, or a good Indiana Jones movie, something like that. Like the action scenes are part of the narrative. Even Mission Impossible, right?
Yeah.
He's looking for the clues, he's looking for the, trying to find the bad guy, whatever. James Bond, same thing. And in this, none of the action scenes actually matter to the story. They were just like impositions keeping him from being with our character, which is what we want. Like literally there was whole scenes with her waiting for him at that karaoke bar and him being stopped by these action scenes. And I'm like, what? Why would you do that? And I mean, it was just, I don't know. I was so frustrated by it. I was watching it South by Southwest. I waited all day, and I was just like, what? Are you kidding me? And I just messaged my friend Sean after. I was like, that was disappointing, because it really was. I didn't think it was a rom-com. I didn't think it was a com. I didn't think it was a rom. It's just like,
right. Yeah, and it's interesting because I kind of like, I think I liked the different like scenes kind of highlight different ways that, that the Fall Guys, that the stunt actors like do things. And I thought that was interesting. Like I liked the idea of it, of like, we're going to have like a close up, shooty fight, and now we're going to have this big on the water, kind of thing. Like they did a bunch of different kinds of stunts that I think were kind of interesting, because I know it was supposed to be this like love letter to the stunt worker, and I think they do that pretty well. But I'm with you, like if you're going to do that, either
like a good example is like Night and Day, James Mangold's movie. Like that movie is like way more successful, in my opinion, of doing this kind of action rom-com adventure sort of story.
Yeah, I mean, I like my go-to is always like True Lies. That's probably my favorite. Like rom-com adventure action movie. Like
even
I
The
love
Lost
that
City,
one.
I think.
Yeah, I agree. The Lost City was fun. It was
kept our couple. They didn't have great chemistry, but at least they were together, and like it was funny.
Right, and there's definitely a way that you could have had her with him, like in a Romancing the Stone way, or whatever, like that kind of action adventure kind of romantic comedy, which are I mean those are fun, and they're a different way. And if you want to do it where you're highlighting all the different ways that they do like stunts and the different kinds of stunts, I think it did that pretty successfully, but to the like detriment of the actual story. And that's like, you have to kind of like, what it could have been. Again, it could have been better.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
There are two mainstream films that flew under the radar that didn't get much play that I thought were pretty entertaining, that I enjoyed, that I figured we end this on like a positive. I really enjoyed Arthur the King. This was the Mark Wahlberg vehicle. And I am a sucker. Both of these, actually, I'm going to talk about, are both inspirational sports movies. So That's one of my weaknesses. I'm an easy sell when it comes to that genre, I guess. But I just, the buttons that we're trying to press were successfully pressed for me with this Arthur the King. And when the I don't think it's too much of a spoiler, but basically the fact that the dog lives was just like, I was so happy.
That is nice.
Because I really didn't think it was going to, and I'm like, oh no. And so that was, it worked for me. I was emotionally invested. I was so happy about the dog, and then there's a whole sequence where they are on the zip line that I was holding my breath the entire. I thought it was so well done. It was so made me so nervous, and oh my gosh, they're on the zip line, and so that I really enjoyed, and I just thought it was overall really entertaining and heartwarming and good story, and so I that's one that I would push on people that I thought was pretty good.
Yeah. I would tell people, especially since it just came on to Netflix, to watch Wicked Little Letters, because
I want to see that.
Oh my goodness, it is so funny. I absolutely loved it. Like, two of my favorite movies this year were comedies. I loved that one, and I loved Scrambled with Liam McKendrick. It's just this like raunchy comedy, which I don't always love the raunchy comedies, but it was such an interesting take on, like, a lot of times people will do like pregnancy kind of movies and like that kind of thing, and she freezes her eggs instead. She's like, I don't want to have kids right now. What I want to do is freeze my eggs. And I've never seen that put to film. And I just like, Babes also came out this year, but I like, if you had to pick between the two, and I think they're similar-ish, I would pick Scrambled, and I think it's playing on Hulu right now, and I really loved it. But Wicked Little Letters is so funny, and it's this interesting feminist kind of movie without being like feminist, but it really is, and I love that about it. Like, I love that it's this very subversive kind of thing. But I would highly recommend it, and I think it just came onto Netflix, and it's really fun. But yeah.
Well, the other one that I was going to mention as far as mainstream was Young Woman in the Sea. That is now on Disney Plus. I knew Trudy Eddery's story because I've done open water swimming in my past. I've done actually 17 open water races over the years, and so I've read her book, and I know of her. And swimming is a really hard sport to make cinematic, because your face is in the water, and so they can't get your emotions in your face and everything. But so I think they really did just about as good a job as you could do in telling this story. And I'm like obsessed with that little pool that they filmed at. Like, where is that in the like secret under the ground by the boiler? I'm like, it must have been a set, but it was so cool. I'm like, I wish I could go to that pool. And I thought it was really crowd pleasing, really enjoyable, and so people hopefully will get to see it on Disney Plus. But that was one that I enjoyed. I mean, as far as like my favorite movies, I did really love. I don't know if this is considered mainstream or not, but I actually really loved Sound of Hope. And I know that Angel Studios can be controversial, whatever. But I thought it was so well acted. It was so moving. It was this adoption story. This whole town basically decides to adopt like all the kids. And it was faith-based, but barely faith-based. Like, it was faith-based in the sense it was about this congregation, but there was really almost nothing about like God, about, miracles. There was nothing. It was all just about these ordinary people that are flawed and that make mistakes and just trying to do this hard thing. And so I really enjoyed that. I would push that on people. What else?
Yeah. Like right now, I don't know, the studio that's like really kind of like ticking my boxes this year has been IFC. I feel like IFC Films has had like some really they feel like they're kind of taking over for me what I liked about A24. Their horror stuff has been really interesting this year at IFC, like, because they're the ones who did Oddity, and they did Late Night with the Devil. And then they did Ghostlight, which was beautiful. They did Dandelion, which is a really interesting
Mhm.
movie too.
Yeah.
So they're in this like smaller studio, but I dig what they're doing right now. Like they feel like they're one that I'm watching pretty heavily. I'm excited. Like Skincare's coming out here in a couple weeks with Elizabeth Banks. I think that looks interesting. So
Mhm.
I kind of dig what they're doing right now.
Couple others to look out for. I think it's coming out in the next couple of weeks is A Real Pain. That was from Sundance, and this was a very, very good movie. If you anybody who has like that cousin that's just like you love them, but oh my gosh, like that Kieran Culkin is that cousin, and I think he
Oh,
could get
that's
nominated
that.
for an
Mhm.
Oscar. He's really good in this movie. I also really enjoyed Your Monster. I'll be very curious what you think of it. It's kind
Mm.
of a horror take on Beauty and the Beast, kind of.
Oh, neat.
And I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it. Ghostlight. I really liked the little documentary Skywalker's a Love Story. That was really good.
Totally, totally.
Uh, let's see anything else.
Yeah, one documentary that I just caught at Fantasia is Adrian in the Castle that I think maybe
Oh
premiered
yeah,
at South by Southwest. I can't remember. I know they said it premiered somewhere
sounds
else.
familiar.
Um, but it's just this really, it's just a love story, and that's it. Like the whole time, I'm like, oh, they did a documentary about this couple and they're in love, and I'm like, oh, what horrible thing happens? And it's not. It's just this couple that's in love. I mean, she passed away like I don't know, like a decade ago, but like, there's no like drama to their story. They're just this interesting off the wall offbeat couple that fell in love, and he's an artist and a guy who like sells mascot like costumes. That's his
Yeah.
job.
Oh,
But
that
he
sounds
took
good.
this like weird old castle and like just filled it with art about the two of them. It's just this beautiful little
Oh, that sounds
documentary. Yeah,
good.
Adrian in the Castle. It's just lovely, and so like it made me cry because it's just like, oh, it's just a story about two people who just love each other, and that's all. They just love each other the whole time, and it's
Yeah.
gorgeous. Like, yeah.
Another that I loved is Musica.
Oh,
I
yes.
I
That
loved
movie
like I just
did
in the
not.
mind of a creative and just experiencing that with Rudy. I got to interview him, which was
Oh,
amazing.
very
And
cool.
I really really loved that. I also a little indie sci-fi animated film called Mars Express, worth checking out.
I missed that one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've heard good things. Yeah.
definitely worth checking out. And then this little movie, if you have the Criterion channel, there's this little movie called Chicken for Linda that's on there that is a total delight. It is really wonderful. And so people should check that out. It's really
For
good.
sure. There
Yeah.
are good movies.
Yeah.
There are so many good
Yes,
movies
there
out there,
are.
like truly you might have to like, I think that's the thing is like look past whenever you're like scrolling through, you're like going to the theater, go past like the first three, and whatever's down at the bottom, consider going to see that. Like I think
Yeah,
when I'm
it's
done
true.
with this interview, I'm probably, or this like discussion, I think I'm going to go see Kneecap because I've heard so many good
Oh
things
yeah.
about it, and I'm like, I'm going to go see it. So like, don't go see whatever the top one that has like 15 theaters.
Yeah.
See the one that has like one showing or
So
two
true.
showings, and it's maybe here for 1 week. Don't be afraid of that movie because it might be the one that makes you go, oh yeah, I do love going to the
Yeah.
movies, because
Yeah.
like they're out there, they're making these movies, I
Yeah.
promise.
And we didn't really talk about Trap, but I will say I am more convinced than ever that this is a Lifetime movie script that was reworked for Shyamalan to promote his daughter. It has all of the beats, and the fact that Haley Mills is in it even reaffirms that, because that's totally a thing Lifetime would do. Like
100%.
seriously, every beat of this movie, you could easily have it be, I didn't know I was married to a killer. The newest thriller on Lifetime.
Yep.
And And so the people were like so offended when I say that. I'm like, no, there's an art and a skill to like make an entertaining, schlocky lifetime thriller. That's what he tried to do, and he didn't succeed, in my opinion.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Right? Yes.
Yeah. Skip Trap. Go past that one. Go past Deadpool. See what's at the bottom with one or two showings. That's the one you want to go see.
Yeah. Look for something that, even if it doesn't succeed, like something like The Bike Riders, I don't think worked, but it was at least interesting.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the main thing, is just, don't be afraid to go to the movie that you didn't see the trailer for at the past, like every single time you went to the movies. Don't be afraid to go see the one that you haven't seen the trailer, that you don't know anything about. Yeah, sometimes it's going to fail and it's just not going to go, but man, those have been some of my favorites in the past years of watching movies. It's the ones where I'm like, no, I don't know anything about it, I'm just gonna go see it, and like more often than not there's something in there. So I'm always, there are original movies, I promise.
Well, this has been very therapeutic for me. Thank you for doing this. And we'll have to do an update maybe once maybe in a couple months we get some of the Oscar movies start coming, things like that. Hopefully we'll get a turnaround for 2024.
Here's hoping.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, indeed.
But if people want to follow your content, you have a book, right? They just came out.
I do. I just recently released a book. It's called The Ted Lasso Relationship Guide. It is about one of the most wholesome TV shows that has existed. And I just kind of look at what I consider the 4 different like relationships of the show: friendships, romantic relationships, mentoring and coaching relationships, and what's the other one? Oh, parenting relationships. But yeah, you can find that at Amazon. And if you want to find me anywhere, I'm just at Alise Chaffins pretty much everywhere, except for Letterboxd, where I'm Alise D. Chaffins. But everything else is just Alise Chaffins. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll have all those links in the description. You do a lot of TikTok too, right?
Yeah, I TikTok pretty often.
Yeah. You can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes, and talking sometimes Lifetime movies over at Hallmarkies Podcast. We have a ton of fun over there. And you can see my interview with Rudy at Hallmarkies Podcast. Lots of good stuff over there. So check that out. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps a lot. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that so much. And check out all of the Female Film Critics panel episodes in the playlist. I would really appreciate that. And we have the Patreon group, which is the biggest way you can support, and you get to be part of watch-alongs and super fun, and the merch store. So check that out. And thanks so much. And we'll talk to y'all later.